Hello, hello. Very excited. We are live. Yay. All right. Just giving a minute or two to let other people in. As you're joining, I would love for you to put in the chat if you're an expat, where do you live? If you are in the process of becoming an expat, let us know where you want to go. I'm excited to have you all here today for this episode because we're going to be traveling to Portugal and talking to expat in Portugal with Nancy. Um, Before I bring her on, I just want to make sure that all works. Excellent. All right. So before I bring it on, I'm going to tell you a little bit about your expat life and what to expect, right? So basically, with your expat life, I'm Sanaya and I have been an expat. I left America in 2015. I've lived in Denmark, I've lived in the UK, and now I live in the Middle East. I live in Doha, Qatar. And I've managed to make all these travel journeys and moves with the family. I have two little girls, Mia, who will be 9 next month, and Elise, who just turned 7. And I launched your expat life because I really wanted to show people the other side, like that there's more out there in the world besides what we're taught and learn in school in America. That's the best place to be. There's so much more outside of those borders. And that's part of the reason why I launched this Your Expat Life Live, so that I can talk to other people about their journeys, their stories, and their experiences. So I'm very excited to have Nancy on so that we can really look at and dive into her story and her journey so that you can hopefully see it as a possibility for yourself as well. So I've just invited Nancy on. We're just going to wait for that process to go through. But if you can put it in the chat and let us know where you are or where you plan to go, that'd be great. And if you have questions as we go through this as well, please don't hesitate to drop those in the chat too. All right. Yay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. So I'm so excited to dive in. I've done some digging on you and your Substack. So how about we start by telling people you left America 4 years ago. Tell us
Yes.
why. What happened? What made you want to leave?
Well, let me just, I'm sorry, I had background noise. Um, it was COVID, it was 2020.
Hmm.
Um, and I was very unhappy with the direction of the country. And my wife had worked in the military and had lived overseas during part of her military career. So the idea of living outside the United States was not a foreign concept to her.
Yeah.
And so she said, well, why don't we move outside of the United States? And I said, cool. And we had looked closer to the US because in 2016 I wanted to leave the United States, but my mother was still alive. So at that time, we were looking at places in Mexico because she was still in the United States.
Yeah.
And Mexico didn't have what we were looking for in terms of infrastructure and stability of electricity and water you can drink and those kinds of things. And and it also didn't get us any closer to Europe, which is where we really enjoy traveling.
Yeah.
So when she said in 2020, why don't we leave? I said, sure, let's do that. And so we looked at what the available options were in Europe,
Hmm.
and we had never been to Portugal,
Okay.
but how bad could it be? So, so we applied for a visa, which was a very easy process. a retirement visa or a passive income visa.
Mm.
And at the time, Portugal offered a very advantageous tax program, which is no longer available, but was available at that time. And
Yeah.
so it was a very simple move for us. We sold everything and got on a plane and moved on December 30th and arrived on December 31st, 2020.
Oh, wow. And so there are no plans to move back.
At the time that we moved to Portugal, frankly, we both said, oh, 3 to 5 years and we'll get over this and we'll move back to the United States. But within 11 months of living in Portugal, unfortunately, I had broken my elbow in a biking
Mm.
accident. And the quality of the healthcare reassured me that we could live in Portugal forever. And we
Yeah.
looked at each other one day and said, do you want to move back? No. So we
No.
we started to look for property to buy, and we're now here for the duration. So
Amazing. No, that's really good. It's surprising to hear, though. You moved to a country that neither of you have ever been to
correct.
and
I didn't
loving
say
it.
we were smart. I just said
Listen, every country I've lived in, I had never been to before. Like, the only reason we went was because we were going to move there. Like, I would have never, Copenhagen was never a place on my list to travel, nor was the Middle East. Like, growing up in America, you stay away from the Middle East, right? That's not some place you, I mean, with everything happening now, especially, but I wouldn't change it. Like, everywhere I've lived has been a great experience culturally and just for our family. So,
yeah. I think being white, I think I grew up in the '60s believing in American exceptionalism.
mhm,
And traveling primarily, I traveled in the United States extensively for business. I was always on a plane, but most of our overseas travel was later in life. And traveling outside of the United States kind of cracked through that belief system in
mhm,
me that there were different education systems that maybe were better, that there were maybe different types of democratic government systems that maybe were a little more stable and a little more predictable. And so, and I'm a socialist at heart. I just am. So,
yeah,
the more I traveled, the more living outside of the United States became an attractive option
yeah,
because it aligned more with my values. And so, it's been, and you continue to grow and learn. I
yeah,
never thought at 71 I'd be learning as much as I learn every day.
yeah. That's amazing. Would you say the things you're learning are they more cultural because you're in a completely different space now?
Part of them are cultural, but part of them is just about me as a person. You
Ah,
know,
okay.
there's a family trait that all Whitemans have. It's called lack of patience, and I actually have learned to be a little more patient, not completely, but a little more patient. Um, growing up and working in business my whole career and being in sales management, you never started an email by, hello, how are you
Yeah,
today? You just went
still
straight to the
writing.
fact, get it done.
Yeah.
Now I start my text messages and my emails with, good morning, how are you?
Mhm,
Which is a
mhm.
big, big change for me.
Yeah. It's slower paced. It's being more intentional. I mean, for me, I'm learning patience as well because driving in the Middle East is something nobody signals. It's
Right,
complete, it's just crazy. But you just kind of go with the flow and there's no rush to life. Like, I grew up on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, so everything was like go, 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 go.
right,
And in London, it's a bit similar. Copenhagen, a little less, but the Middle East, it's completely like you're on your own time. I feel like my family is originally from the Caribbean. So it's like a thing of island time. It's like slow
right.
time.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. When Denise grew up in Chicago, And after she got out of the military, she lived in Colorado and on the West Coast. And when she moved to Philadelphia, where we lived for a number of years, she said, "Is everybody in Philadelphia rude?" It was like, well, I didn't think we were rude, but maybe
Now that you say it.
maybe we are rude. I don't know. So,
So, one of the things you said is you wanted to move to Europe because I'm assuming it's easier for you to get around and travel to more places.
oh
Where
my
have
God.
you where have you been since you've lived in Portugal?
Oh my goodness. Where haven't we been? So we fly to London for the weekend to see to get our theater fix because we're not going to New York City anymore. So we fly to London a couple of times a year to go see 3 or 4 plays and then fly home. And you know, Ryanair, as many
Yep,
horrible things as you can say about Ryanair, that it does cost 29 euros to fly to London. So how difficult could it be?
exactly.
We last year we took a road trip because we had traveled so much without the dog that we didn't want to leave the dog home for 6 weeks. So we got in the car and we drove over 10,000 kilometers through 8 countries, up
Wow.
and back to Denmark. So, you know, we drove up through Portugal, into Spain, through France, into Belgium, into Germany, into Denmark, spent 10 days in Denmark, then came down, and Prague is one of Denise's favorite cities, so we just kind of detoured
Yeah.
over to Prague and then came back that way. So that was a wonderful, wonderful road trip. We're right across the river from Spain, so when we want cheaper gas, we drive to Spain. There's a ferry for €1.30 that'll take us over to
Oh
Aymara.
wow.
So, so we'll jump on the ferry and in 10 minutes we're in Spain for tapas. So, let me see, we did a Christmas River cruise last year through Austria and Germany. And then last Christmas, we went to Cambodia and Vietnam, even though they're not in Europe, we just kind of
Like,
threw
it's
that in.
it's just so easy to get once you're over here, it's so easy to get places. And like you said, you can find cheap ways to get around. It surprised me when I was living in London. Like, and then the mindset that Europeans have around travel is like, oh, let's just go for a weekend break, a city break. It's like nothing.
Yeah, that was a big change for me, is that young Portuguese that are making 800-900 euros a month were better traveled than I was.
Yeah,
And that really astonished me. So that was a big deal.
yeah, it's big. I think that was one of the culturally as Americans, like you start with, your small 2 weeks of vacation
Hmm.
and you struggle to use them all. Like I have a cousin and he's still in America. He works for the government, but he's like, oh, I want to come visit you, but I don't have a lot of vacation or I only have a few days left. And in my head, I'm like, well, you're supposed to use them before you lose them. Like, just come on. But
Right,
we are so hesitant to just use that time and just travel versus over here they get like 20, 30 days. My husband has about 3 months of vacation time
right,
and I struggle to keep him home.
right. Yeah, there are 20 legal holidays in Portugal, and it plus your vacation time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's a big deal. Give me 1 second. I just realized I thought I was going to talk to you on my laptop, and I'm talking to you on my phone, and it's telling me that I'm low on battery. So
Oh
excuse me
no.
a second.
No worries.
Please.
So for
This is
those of you that are joining us now, it'll be great for you to drop in the chat. If you already are an expat, where do you live? I would love to know where you live. If you're looking to start your expat journey or you've been in the research phase, let us know where you're thinking about going. Like what places are of interest to you. And if you have questions, drop them in the chat as well. So we don't want to just talk at you. I want to also get some of your questions and thoughts as well.
Keep going. I'm getting there. I'm getting battery.
No worries.
Sorry. Here it is.
Yeah, they haven't allowed you to do it on the computer yet, so it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I was totally unaware. Sorry about that. Sorry for
No, it's
looking at
fine.
the ceiling and my skylight.
The skylight's beautiful.
Thank you. So we designed this house. We bought an old Union Hall, and finally battery. We bought an old Union Hall, and that was over 100 years old and hadn't been occupied for 30 years. And it was a big empty shell
Oh
with a
wow.
roof, so it wasn't a ruin. But we were able to convert it into a home that looks very Portuguese on the outside because we're in the historic district, and very American on the inside.
So you got to
So,
do what you really wanted to it. That's amazing.
yeah.
We have someone on here that's Spiffy Walker, arrived September 1st and says, I'm Nancy's neighbor.
Yes, I picked her up at the airport.
Oh, nice. That's one
So,
thing I love about community abroad. Like, you find community everywhere you go, and it's super friendly.
yeah.
What's one of the biggest cultural shocks that you've experienced being abroad?
I'm very type A. Timeliness is extremely important to me. And the lack of timeliness. I
Yeah,
don't know how to say it nicely, but
yeah.
it's not as important to be on time in
Mhm.
Portugal. So that was a big adjustment for me. But probably the biggest one is our town square has regular music events, regular social events, and they start at 10 p.m. when I'm thinking about going to bed because I get up at 6. And they conclude around 1:30 or 2, and there are children running around in the town square, unsupervised. I mean, parents are there, but they're not like
Okay.
they don't have them on tethers or anything, and
Yeah,
they're not watching them feverishly. They're safe, and the kids just run around at all hours of the night and somehow get up to go to school the next day, which I just don't understand. But so that
yeah.
was a big adjustment.
I that's a pretty common thing here as well. A lot of kids, especially I think in the Middle Eastern culture, they eat because they have the multiple prayers throughout the day. So after that
Right.
last prayer, it's late. I mean, and also because of the heat, a lot of people are in the malls and they're in all these other places, but until late, like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then the kids wake up and schools start early here. So my kids have to be in school by, well, last year they had to be in school by 6:50 a.m. Like that's what this year they've changed it. So they have to be in school for 7:15. But that's early.
Yeah, yeah, that is early.
The kids
Yeah,
are
the
up
school
late.
starts a little later here, but yeah, that was kind of a cool thing to see, that kids can just run around at
Yeah.
night and play. And I remember when we traveled to Japan several years ago before we moved to Portugal. And I remember these little adorable children with little cute little hats and little uniforms on, getting on the metro, the underground to go to school.
Yeah.
And um, they were small, 7, 8 years of age, traveling by themselves
Oh wow.
on the metro. And in Japan, adults will get out of their seat so the children can sit down. And they
Hmm.
would just sit down and they would open a book or they'd eat some snacks, and everybody would keep a watchful eye on them.
Yeah.
But it was eye opening. It was like, how is this possible that, when I went to school, I walked through the snow for, no, when I went to school, I walked to the bus stop, and then when we lived in a gated community, people drove their kids to the bus stop that was
Mm.
inside the gate and sat there until their kids got on the bus. It was like, what the heck has happened in the last 50
Yeah.
years that this
Yeah.
has happened?
Very different life.
Yeah, very, very different life.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like here, the things that like kids are one of the most important things. There's so much things for kids to do here. My kids are always entertained and well looked after. Like that was one of, for me, one of the things that gave me relief coming here. Um, I worry about my kids, but I don't have to worry about them as much here. Like it's super safe. We live in a part of a residences is part of a hotel, and they can go downstairs in the garden and play and be fine. I don't have to worry about them. And I feel like I would have never let them do that in the UK, and they definitely would not be doing that in New York.
Yeah,
So it's
right.
like the way that they're growing up, it's like I'm jealous.
Now, what took you to the Middle East?
My husband's in banking. So he works for the Qatar Investment Authority here. And that's the same thing that took us to Copenhagen. He's British, so that's why we were in the UK.
Okay. And did you have any concerns going to the Middle East? Because I know I would have.
So initially, yes, I did. And when we came for our last, like his final interviews, and they flew us out to visit and do all that stuff, I was like, oh, it's actually really nice. It's not all desert. It's a built up city. Everyone is friendly and welcoming. And yeah, initially I was like, why are we going to the Middle East? Like the Middle East is not a place we you live. But now that I'm
Hmm.
here, I'm like, I don't want to leave. It's the lifestyle is amazing. I mean, granted, I live in Doha, and so we did they did get bombed last night, but you still feel safe. Knock on wood, you still feel safe.
I hope you
So
continue to feel safe because it's, yeah, it's a crazy
that's the
place.
thing. It's like now we're sitting here trying to figure out like what their response is going to be, and then that's going to impact our like next decisions. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, everything's back to normal and fine. So
Well, good for you.
so take us through a day in your life. Like what does a day in your life look like in Portugal?
Well, it's not very exciting. I mean, I've been retired for 12 years, so it's not
Yeah.
that exciting. Um, get up early. Um, I was listening to a lot of American news and a lot of American political podcasts when I
Yeah.
got up in the morning. Unfortunately, that's not good for my mental health. So had to cut down on that. I still subscribe to the New York Times. I used to
Yeah.
subscribe to the Washington Post until Bezos became an idiot. And but I don't read papers as much as I used to. I don't watch American news as much as I used to. I just can't.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
get up. I walk to the beach, which is about a 20-minute walk away. Walk along the beach, snap some photographs. Think about the meaning of life, um, come back, and I paint, um, and play golf and have lunch with friends, most of whom are expats. Some are Portuguese, but most of whom are expats because my language skills are still not terrific. And most of our Portuguese friends are still working, so they're not, you
Yeah.
know, out. So, it's kind of a quiet life. Traveling, we travel quite a bit. Probably, well, this year we kind of said we were going to travel every single month, and we
Um,
did, but that was a little too much travel, so we're gonna cut it back a little bit next year.
yeah.
But there's so many places we want to see, and unlike you, the time clock is ticking a little faster for us. So, and we want to do it while we're physically able to do
Yeah.
everything we want to do. So, we've, kind of creating lists now of where we really want to go um, before it's over. So,
Yeah. That's
so we
amazing.
travel.
Do you where you are right now, do you feel you need to learn the language?
Yes,
You
yes,
do.
absolutely. Well, first of all, out of respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yes, we took language, the Portuguese government offers free language classes for expats and immigrants, and through the public school system. So we took those at night through the public school system. And we did get our A1, A2 language certificates for doing that. Um, so can I go to a restaurant comfortably? Yes. Can I go to the post office? Yes. Can I go to a store? Yes. You know, that kind of stuff I can do. Do I
Yeah.
worry about, using the metro when I'm in Lisbon or any of that kind of stuff? No, that's fine. However, can I hold a conversation with someone I don't know well? It's difficult. It's
Yeah.
difficult. My language comprehension skills in particular are very difficult. Algarvians speak faster than people
Mm.
from Lisbon. They smush together a lot more words. So I can understand people from Lisbon a lot better than I can understand people that live in my town.
Yeah.
So, and when you ask them politely in Portuguese, could you please speak more slowly? There's a little lady that owns a linen shop around the corner from us, and whenever I say that to her, I swear she speeds up.
Because
So,
you asked.
I'm sure she thinks she's trying to speak more slowly because she's the sweetest lady in the world, and we always, greet each other, but somehow she just speaks faster and faster and faster. So.
That's funny. So are you taking more language classes, or like how are you going to
No,
fill that gap?
I'm on a break right now. Break, I'm not sure when the break's gonna end. Denise is really good. Every single day Denise practices for a half hour
Oh, good.
using
Oh, is it
apps.
like
And
Duolingo or something? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she practices every single day. She is far more disciplined. So,
Amazing. Yeah. We're the girls are, because they go to a British international school. So one of their lessons is Arabic and Islamic studies. I'm trying to pick up some of it through Duolingo, but everyone here speaks English. So you don't have to, like, I don't feel a push to learn the language. I think it's like you said, out of respect. Like, I know how to say, some things, but I can't hold a conversation. I know how to order
yeah,
my coffee.
yeah. Yeah, and we're looking at dual citizenship in the future, and I think, if you're going to become a citizen of the country and vote in their elections and those kinds of things, you should learn the language. So those things are important to us. So,
Yeah. There's someone, Marita and Margaret from Reba Mar. Say hi.
okay, hello.
I see that on here. Amazing. And then we have someone that's looking to um, be an expat in Colombia when they retire.
We heard very good things about Colombia.
Yeah, I've never been.
Yeah, no, I haven't been either, but we heard very, very good things about Colombia.
Yeah, amazing. So for those of you that are joining us, let us know if you're an expat now, where you live. If you are in the process of your journey, let us know where you're looking to go. Couple more questions. So one of the biggest concerns that a lot of people have in starting their expat journey or thinking about moving abroad is finances. How would you compare retirement where you are in Portugal now versus if you were retired in America financially?
I think it's about 25% cheaper to live in Portugal.
Mm,
We were fortunate that was not a driving factor for us, but
yeah.
it is definitely cheaper to live in Portugal than it is to live. Now, real estate has gone up, like a lot of parts of the world, there's a real estate shortage. And my opinion is we've definitely had an impact on the cost of real estate in Portugal. So,
Mm,
in a negative way. Um, but it is definitely cheaper to live here. I think you need to be realistic.
mhm,
Um, there are many, many Portuguese people that live on 900 euros a month, but you're not going to live anywhere along the coast. You're going to live in central Portugal.
Mhm.
You're not going to live in a house with a dishwasher and central heat and air conditioning and those kinds of things. You're going to live like somebody in Portugal that makes 900 euros a month
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah.
So, um, also, we buy private health insurance because we not contributed to the tax basis of Portugal very much.
Okay.
And I don't think it's fair. We're eligible for national health insurance in Portugal, but I don't think it's fair for us to
Mm.
utilize scarce resources when we haven't contributed a dime to them.
Mhm.
So we purchase private health insurance, which, as you know, gets more expensive the older you get. So when we moved to Portugal, we were 67, and it was about the same as Medicare Part B for us, about $140 a month. Now it's 220 euros a month because when you get to hit 70, hello,
Goes.
big rate increase. So, but we're fortunate that's not a big issue for us. So, um, and when Portuguese income taxes kick in, which they will in about 6 more years, then that's a big difference. You know,
Mhm.
in the US, um, our tax rate was like 22% or something like that. In Portugal, it will be 46%.
Okay.
And, you know, you need to, if you're thinking of moving to Portugal and you need to consider that, you might pay zero taxes in the United States.
Yeah.
Let's say you're making $1,700 a month on Social Security in the United States. You're probably paying no income taxes whatsoever in the federal income taxes in the United States if you're making $1,700 a month. But $1,700 a month in Portugal puts you in the 30-something% tax bracket, and you
Mm.
need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Um, Also, the dollar fluctuation. We haven't seen a particularly favorable dollar over the last, I don't know, was it since January? Something happened in January. I'm not sure what, but something happened in January that drove down the value of the dollar. And, you know, that's a big difference when you go from near parity
Yeah.
to 86 or 84 cents, you know, it's a big difference.
It makes a
If
huge
you're,
difference.
yeah, so those are things you need to be aware of when you're moving overseas. Because
Yeah.
you don't want to be stressed about finances. There's enough other things to stress about that you don't want to be stressed about that as well.
Exactly. Like you're moving abroad for a better lifestyle. You don't want to then have that additional stress. Like that's what you're trying to get away from.
Right.
Tom the guac farmer wants to
Oh
know
my God, Tommy,
who painted the beach scenes behind you?
your old boss, Tom. I did.
Amazing.
Tom is one of the best salesmen I have ever known in my entire life. And he worked for me for a number of years, and then I had a midlife crisis, quit my job, left the company, came back a number of years later, and I had the privilege of working for him. And
Oh,
he was also one of the best bosses I ever had because he
oh.
left me the heck alone.
Not a micromanager.
So, and he had his priorities straight. He retired very young and bought an avocado farm,
Oh, wow. That's
and
amazing.
has the hottest wife on the face of the earth. So,
Congratulations, Tom. He says, I love your artistic side, Nancy, and it's warming my heart to hear your voice.
oh, that's sweet.
Very good. We have, scrolling up, Donna. She's followed you for 2 years, and they're planning to move to Spain, the Malaga region, in fall of 26.
Okay, cool. I don't know
Amazing.
where the Malaga region is, or is it
Well, that's
Malaga?
Malaga. Sorry, I mispronounced it.
Malaga. Oh, one of my
Malaga.
favorite cities in Spain. Oh, you don't have to learn Spanish if you live in Malaga.
Oh, that's a plus.
Yeah.
We've got Mike planning to move to Valencia in spring of 26. Spain is I know a lot of people going to Spain,
Yeah,
and I know part of it is the visa. Um, what is it? The digital nomad visa that they have there is why a lot of people are. It's like easy to qualify for.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I see a lot of similarities between the visa processes in both countries.
Yeah.
And I have to apologize to you again. This battery is now dying, so give
Oh
me
no,
1 second. I'm leaving you.
no
We'll do some
worries.
more paintings.
No worries. Nancy will be back. So for those of you, I see some more people just joining us. And if you have questions, drop them in the chat as well. So let us know if you're already an expat, where you live. If you are wanting to become an expat, you're in your journey, in your process, where do you want to go? For those of you that are joining, I'm Sanaya. I am my Substack is Your Expat Life. I've been an expat since 2015, and I've lived in Copenhagen, Denmark. I've lived in London, and now I live in the Middle East. So yes. Oh yeah. So you were saying you see a lot of similarities between Spain and Portugal.
In terms of the visas, they're very similar in terms of qualifying. They have a
Hmm.
retirement visa, we have a retirement visa, they have a digital nomad visa. I don't know the particulars of the dollar amount in Spain, but I think they're very similar. I know their taxes are very, very similar to ours.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, um, and she's getting a battery.
No worries. No worries. So someone asked about my journey. So I'm based in Doha, Qatar. My journey has been I left America for love. I stayed for the lifestyle. I left in England, so my husband's British. He refused to live in America, and I had to come and live in the UK for us to continue to be together. But I because I had my own business that I started in 2011, I was able to travel around and follow him on his journeys working because he's in banking. And so his first job outside of the UK took us to Copenhagen. We had an 8-month-old baby when we left to do that. I had my second daughter there, which was the best birthing experience. Copenhagen is amazing to have with young kids. Um, Socialist country as well. Um, from there, we stayed there for about 3.5 years, and then we moved back to the UK. My older daughter was struggling to speak English, Danish. She's just struggling to speak, and so it was recommended for us to be in a one language environment for her. And now she doesn't stop talking. So we were in the UK for 3.5 years. Now we're in Doha, Qatar, because my husband took a job with the investment authority here. Our plan is to be here for 3 to 5 years. It's been a year already. Um, and before yesterday, we were like, oh, this is great. Nothing, we don't see, we can see, 3 to 5 years or more. But with everything happening in the Middle East, it's always, you never know. So, yeah, but despite everything that happened yesterday, we still are safe and everything's back to normal. So we'll just take it day by day. But yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for asking. Yeah,
So how
amazing.
did you meet your husband if he was in England and you were in the United States?
So I used to work in banking as well, and he
Oh,
used to
okay.
travel to. He was at the time he was working for Royal Bank Scotland, and he used to travel to New York a lot. And we met at one of the banking events. Yeah, and then 3 weeks later, I was in the UK for a 3-week trip.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone
So,
says here, you and Denise were pretty ballsy to restore an old building in a place where you did not speak the language. Ooh, what would you say to someone else who just moved to the country thinking about doing this? Definitely not thinking about doing this myself. And this is Marita.
okay, Marita, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So we had built homes in the United States from plans. We had flipped homes in the United States. So I thought I knew a lot about construction, and I do about construction in the United States. But there are no drywall and wood stud walls in Portugal. They're cement, cinder blocks and plaster and those kinds of things. And so it was a totally different building process, which I totally underestimated. Now we had a very, how do I say this nicely? He was a bit of a bully builder, but we had a female architect who spoke perfect English, Portuguese architect that spoke perfect English. Um, he was Spanish and Portuguese, so he only spoke Spanish and Portuguese. He didn't speak any English whatsoever. So it was very interesting. We had a female architect, Denise and myself, and we would meet each month with him to discuss the status of the project. And we would say, we want this, and he would say, oh, you can't do that. This is Portugal. This is not the way we do things. Da 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 da. And I'd say to our architect, Anna, can we do that? And she'd go, oh, yes, you can do that. And I'd say, will you please explain to him how to do that? And she would then bully him into doing it. So it was an interesting process. We came in pretty close to budget.
Oh,
He had contracted for 12 months. It took 14, which by everybody I speak to say, oh, that's amazing. You guys did so well. Da, 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 da. But I was going crazy. Um, and so, and the quality, I cannot fault the quality. The quality of construction, at least in our house, is phenomenal, much better than any house I ever had in the United States.
wow.
But it was stressful. It was stressful.
Wow. So where did you live for the 14 months that was happening?
We rented an apartment down the street.
Okay.
When we landed in Cascais, which is the Portuguese Riviera. It's outside of Lisbon. It's where the president of Portugal lives. It's a very hotty-toddy kind of touristy type place. And it's a beautiful, matter of fact, we're going there this weekend. It's a beautiful place, but it's like living in, Denise says it's living in San Diego. It's not
Yeah.
living in San Diego, but it's very touristy. You never
It's
have to
that
learn
kind
a
of
word of
vibe. Yeah.
Portuguese. And she wanted to live in a real Portuguese town. So we moved,
Yeah.
and when we decided to do the construction, I said, I am not going to do this from Cascais, which is a 3.5 hour drive. So
Um,
we rented an apartment down the street, and I literally would walk to the construction site every day and count how many workers were on site. There was normally only one or two. And then I would go to the bar next door and buy beer and bring it back. And that was my
ah.
sole job during the entire construction process.
And that's probably what kept them on track. Like 2 months more than timeline, I think is great for any construction job.
Right. Yeah, well, if nothing else, it gets me hugs when I see them in the town square at night, so.
I bet, yeah. Someone I put in the chat, but KMB asked what happened here yesterday. So yesterday, basically, Israel bombed the Hamas leaders' housing that they have here. They're in the process of negotiating, in process of a ceasefire negotiation, and yeah, that's what happened. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, what happens next is what we are waiting to hear. Um, yeah. Any other questions anybody has? I have a few, but want to make sure we get questions answered. Tell us about your Substack. So I've been reading the articles, but for those of us on here that aren't subscribed, tell us about expat in Portugal and what made you want to start that after in
So,
retired life as well. And you post frequently.
yeah, I post once a week now. I don't know how long that's gonna continue, but, so we years ago we used to play a sport called pickleball, which is very popular among retired people in the United States. And we used to have a motorhome, and we would travel around the United States in our motorhome going to pickleball tournaments.
Wow.
And so friends would say, "Oh, we want to keep track of your travels," and so I started a blog on WordPress called RV Picklers. And we did that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And then it ended because I just got tired of doing it. And so when we moved to Portugal, our friends said, "Oh, do a blog just like you did with RV Picklers." And at the time, Substack was not brand new, but relatively new. And I didn't have to buy a WordPress license. I just could
Mm,
use it for free. So, and it was even easier than WordPress, which is phenomenal. Because I sold computers, but that doesn't mean I know anything about computers. So, it was COVID when we got to Portugal. We were in lockdown
oh,
until April 27th, 2021. And when, you probably experienced this, when Europe says lockdown, it's a little different than when California
yes.
says lockdown. So I had absolutely nothing to do. So I literally posted every day.
Yeah.
And I started with like 100 friends that started reading it. And because I was posting so frequently, within, I don't know, a year, I had 1,000 people reading it. And then I was like, oh, shoot, now I have an obligation to 1,000 people. And so now we're just like 12 people away from 6,000. And
Yeah.
so now I feel like, oh, shoot, I have an obligation to 6,000 people. But at some point it will end. But it's just I enjoy writing, and it's kind of, I have a weird sense of humor, and I try to keep it funny and share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and about living in Portugal.
So you have something going on with your trash cans.
Yeah, yeah. That was a victory. That was a victory. Yeah, so for those of you who don't read my Substack, and why don't you read my Substack? Anyway, the city in 2016 applied to the EU for a grant to provide public trash cans that were underground, that get access through these chutes that are above ground, um, within 200 meters of everybody in the city of Villarreal de San Antonio. And so in 2016, they got money given to them by the EU. And they mapped out exactly where all these trash cans were going to be. But they waited until earlier this year to implement
Mm.
project. Did they look at any of the changes in the city between then and now? No. They just implemented the project. So fortunately, we live directly behind the church. And the, um, the, what was I going to say? Oh, so they started putting in these trash cans, and all five of them were supposed to be across the street from us. So if you looked out any of our front windows, you would see these five trash cans. And not that the trash cans are ugly, but I know for a fact, sorry, my dog wants to get into the bedroom, so excuse me a second. I know for a fact that stuff that doesn't fit in the trash cans will be put next to the trash cans.
Yeah.
And have a slight case of OCD. So, so I went to my neighbors and I said, I don't want five trash cans in front of my house. And my neighbors, who were Portuguese, said, there is absolutely nothing you can do about this. It will never change. Just give up. But I put together a number of emails. One of my neighbors said, turn one of those emails into a petition. I turned it into a petition, walked up and down the street. Everybody signed the petition. And at that point, I found out that the priest was very upset
Oh,
because one of the trash cans was by a back door of the church, which was used to distribute food to the poor. and the trash can was literally like 18 inches from the back door. And so when I found out that he was also upset, I partnered with the priest because the Catholic Church is still very powerful here in
Yes.
Portugal. So, long story short, I met with the mayor. I practiced my Portuguese speech over and over and over and over again so I could speak to him in Portuguese.
Oh, wow.
And I said to him, I have 4 points. Point number one is the sanctity and the mission of the church. And I showed him a picture of the door with the steeple in the background and the whole bit. And he said, I agree with you. I've spoken to the priest. We're moving the trash cans. So we discussed where he should move them. We compromised a little further down the block. I said to him, my neighbor will not be happy. He said, I don't care, wherever I put them, somebody's not going to be happy. And, but they're not in front of my house anymore. So, 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 so then the priest says to me, so you said you had 4 points. What's the other 3 points? And I said to a gentleman that was at the meeting who was there to act as an interpreter in case we couldn't understand each other. I said, Miguel, I haven't practiced this part, so please explain to the mayor that I was in sales for 30 years, and when the prospect says yes, you stop selling.
They don't
And
matter anymore.
yeah, so I then looked at the engineer, Renato, and I said, Renato, how long is it going to take to move these trash cans? And he said, 1 week. And I said, no, 1 month. He said, no, 1 week. I said, no, and no, 1 month. And we went back and forth. It took 13 weeks, but they're now moved. So,
Well, it's impressive that you had that first part of the conversation in Portuguese.
well, there's, there's two ladies on the corner. One is a linen merchant, and the other owns a gelato company with her husband, and they're both named Anna. So we call them Linen Anna and Gelato Anna. And Gelato Anna practiced with me all day Sunday before the meeting, over and over again. And she kept laughing and saying, "I love when you speak Portuguese with an American accent." So
Anita's asking, have you posted a video of your home's interior?
Not a video. There are many, many photographs. If you go to the Substack if you go to the main screen at the top, it says our renovation project, and the entire renovation project is documented there. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the very last ones is photographs of the interior.
It looks amazing.
So, thanks.
Any advice about moving to Mexico?
No, I think it's actually easier than moving to Europe. Um, I mean, I've known many people that have moved to Mexico, and I don't know that either the United States or Mexico knows they're there. So, um, seems pretty easy to move there. But no, I mean, we looked at Puerto Vallarta, which has a large gay community. We looked at Cabo San Lucas because it was so close to Southern California where we were living at the time. Um, we looked at a lot of places. We were supposed to go to San Miguel when lockdown occurred
Mm,
in March of 2020. And, um, and I've heard wonderful things about Allende, San Miguel Allende. Um, it's very artsy fartsy, which appeals to me. But we got locked down and had to cancel that trip, so we moved to Portugal.
mm, yeah. For me, I have a few people that have actually moved to Mexico, and it was a fairly easy process. So
Yeah.
definitely just look into the visas and what the different options are and see which ones apply to you. But I always say for people, pick a city based on the lifestyle you want to have.
Hmm.
Yeah. And don't do like we did. Go visit. Visit. Plan a trip.
Yeah, plan a trip. Well, to be fair, we couldn't plan a trip in 2020.
Yeah, that's true.
We couldn't.
Mhm.
So
Very true. Tom says, He starts every Monday with a cup of coffee and Nancy's block.
Oh, that's sweet.
Amazing. Well, what's next for you? So we're just taking a look at time, and I see more people joining. Thanks for joining. But what's next for you?
So let me see. So this weekend, we're going to Cascais. There's something called the Cities of Illumination, which takes place throughout Europe. And Cascais is the city this weekend where they use video mapping to project movies onto the sides of buildings, and they have interactive light displays and all kinds of stuff that sounds very cool. And the videos that I've seen on YouTube look very cool. So we're
Oh,
going to
wow.
Cascais this weekend to do that. We're fortunate that friends of ours are in Italy for a month. So they contacted us and said, "You want to come over to Florence?" And we said, "Sure." So when we
Yeah.
leave Cascais, we go to Lisbon Airport and we fly to Florence for a couple of days. Then we come home. Then in October, we go to Morocco because we can drive to Tarif, Spain, and get on a
Mm.
ferry. And for 40 euros, we can take, and an hour later, we're in Tangiers, Morocco. So we're going to Morocco for a week in October. And then November, we're playing in some golf tournaments in Portugal. And then we're home for the holidays. And
Nice.
then next year, we're doing a Nile cruise. And what else are we? Oh, and we're going to Australia and New Zealand because it's our 30th anniversary. So we're going away 6 weeks to Australia and New Zealand next year.
That sounds amazing. I want to have your life when I retire.
You should have, everyone should
I
have
want it.
our life.
Yes, I want to have
Yeah.
your life. What is there anything that you miss about America?
Pharmaceutical ads on television? No, just kidding. Um, Junk mail? No, just kidding.
Uh,
Um, I've just started in the last year getting telemarketing calls on my Portuguese phone number. It took 4 years for them to find me, but they have now found me in Portugal. Um, but is there anything I miss? Family and friends, obviously. I have not been back to the United States since we moved.
oh wow, yeah.
And we were about to go back before the last election because we were very optimistic. We were going to go
Hmm.
back and visit family and friends, but I'm not sure we're going back anytime soon now.
Yeah.
Um, so family and friends, yes. Um, I don't miss the traffic. Uh, no, there's actually nothing that I really miss other than family and friends.
Yeah.
Um, I am a vegetarian, which makes eating in a small town in Portugal a little more challenging because I don't eat fish anymore either. So,
Okay.
and Portugal's very fish heavy in terms of
Hmm.
their cuisine. And this town is very Portuguese food centric. There's not a lot, if we were in Lisbon or if we were in Central Algarve and Albufeira, that area, there'd be more international foods. This particular town is very much a working class Portuguese town,
Yeah.
so it's Portuguese food. So we eat home a lot. But, um,
Yeah.
so maybe some of the food choices, but if we lived in Lisbon or Porto, that wouldn't be an issue. We could have
Yeah.
Thai food and Mexican food and all kinds of different food.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing. Anita says she's visiting Lisbon for 3 days. What must sees would you recommend for these 3 days? And then we'll end after that.
Well, I would walk, 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 and walk as much as you can walk. I would take a free walking tour. I don't know if you have this in Qatar, but in Europe we have something called Guru Walks, which
Mm.
is an app that shows you all the free walking tours throughout Europe. So go to Guru Walks, put in Lisbon, pick one of the free walking tours, tip the guide generously when you're done, but take a free walking tour of Lisbon. It's a phenomenal city. And have, if your budget permits, have lunch at the Palacia in Chiado, which is a phenomenal restaurant in Lisbon. and then head up to Belém, which is a neighborhood of Lisbon, and go to the Coach Museum and the monastery and Belém Monument. It's a, oh, and have a pasta donate.
Yes, must do.
Yeah, must do. So, but
Amazing.
no, Lisbon is a wonderful, wonderful city. And oh, and bring comfortable shoes because there's a lot of hills in
It's
Lisbon.
lots of yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining and thanks for sharing your story. For those of you that joined late, the replay will be posted probably tomorrow and you'll be able to tune in for that. And yeah, thank you so much. And I have one of these scheduled every week through November. So subscribe, tune in and come back to what we'll see where we go next.
I've enjoyed your Substack very much. So keep it up.
Thank you. I'm trying. It's not my main business, but I'm trying to keep it going.
Okay.
Bye. Have a good
Take
evening.
care. Be well.
Bye. You too.
Or as we say, beijinhas.
Practicing that Portuguese.